Tonight's speaker is Dr. Scott Campbell. He is a medical entomologist, and he has a PhD from Cleveland State University. Currently, Dr. Campbell is the laboratory chief of Arthropod-Borne Disease Laboratory for the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and has been involved in public health and research of arthropod-borne diseases for over 30 years. He and his staff are responsible for countywide surveillance for all mosquito-borne and tick-borne pathogens that cause human disease. Dr. Campbell is a member of various professional organizations, enjoys presenting at professional meetings, and has contributed to the scientific peer-reviewed literature. Since 2015, Dr. Campbell has been a member of the Scientific Advisory Panel for the Regional Tick-Borne Disease Resource Center at Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. So thank you, Dr. Scott Campbell, for joining us tonight, and we look forward to learning from you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I actually, if you want to take, there's a 5-question pre-talk survey, and you can either scan the QR code with your phone, or I also put the link into the chat. If you all don't mind taking that, we're trying to gauge our any kind of knowledge gaps, as well as our effectiveness in presentation of our content. So this is the pre, and there will be the same questions afterwards, and you'll be able to get your score after the presentation. So in Suffolk County, there are primarily 3 ticks of medical importance. They're the black-legged tick, which is also been called the deer tick, the American dog tick, and the Lone Star tick, and we'll talk about all 3 of these. So all ticks have the same stages. This is the black-legged tick, and they all start as eggs, and out of the eggs come a 6-legged larva, which does not typically have any kind of pathogens or germs in it. They acquire the germs, like for Lyme disease, from feeding on an infected animal. So when they take the blood meal, that's when they become infected, and then in subsequent molts, it will carry that infection with it, and that is when the risk is for subsequent meals and biting humans. That's when we can acquire the infection. So the 6-legged larva takes the blood meal, it digests it, and then it molts into an 8-legged nymph. And that nymph will take a blood meal and then molt into either an adult male or adult female. They mate. The adult male, they do not take blood, but the adult female will, and they use that to create a clutch of eggs. So here is a poppy seed muffin, and you can see in the little red circles, these are actual ticks. Those black items on the muffin are poppy seeds. So you can see that this black-legged nymph is very, very small, and this actually is the tick species and stage that transmits the most tick-borne illnesses. And so this is what everyone is looking for, or larger, when it comes to tick checks, because these are the dangerous ones. And the reason they're dangerous is because they're infected. This stage can be infected, and they're very small and often missed. So this is what you're really looking for, something this small. Okay, and so I mentioned that they take blood meals. Depending on the stage, they will feed for anywhere from 2 to 7 days. You can see this is actually an adult black-legged tick. They feed for 7 days, and they will lay a clutch of eggs, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 eggs. Lone Star ticks will lay approximately 6,000 eggs. So a single female can lay an awful lot of eggs and produce an awful lot of ticks. Here is a erythema migrans rash, or a bullseye rash from a tick that infected this person with the pathogen that causes Lyme disease. You can see that it's in the center is that bullseye, and that's where the tick was attached. From that, the bacterium that causes Lyme disease moves through the skin away from that bite site and causes that expanding red rash. Couple things is you can see it's quite large. So a rash that's the size of a mosquito bite is typically not a bullseye rash. You need something that's about the size of an orange or larger. Oftentimes people will take a marker and actually put a circle around it, at the margin and see if it expands. The other thing is you can see that this is actually on the back of this individual. So it's very important during tick checks, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's important to look all over the body, including places you really can't see easily. So you can use mirrors or something like that to look in the back, or have somebody help you. But you want to look everywhere. So here's the black-legged tick. Again, six-legged larva feeds to an eight-legged nymph, and then you have the male and the female. Lone star ticks have those stages as well. The larval and nymphal ticks are juveniles that will feed on humans. The nymph will molt into either an adult male or female, and they will attach to humans as well, and the adult female will feed. American dog ticks have all the stages. I don't put them here because it's only the adults that will attach to humans. The larvae and nymphs only feed on rodents, so they're not an issue when it comes to attaching to humans. So here's a list of the diseases that they can cause. And so these are the pathogens that cause the associated disease with the ticks listed. Black-legged tick, it's the #1 tick, and Lyme disease is the #1 disease. Anaplasmosis, babesiosis, many of these you've probably heard about. Powassan viral disease is exactly that, a virus. And then Borrelia miyamotoi disease is a bacterial disease that causes a relapsing fever. Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, babesiosis, and Borrelia miyamotoi disease can be treated with antibiotics. And then the Powassan virus disease is a virus, so it cannot be treated with antibiotics, but just supportive care. Lone star ticks, they transmit ehrlichiosis and tularemia. Those are bacterial diseases that can be treated with antibiotics. Two viruses that we found recently in Suffolk County is Heartland virus and Bourbon virus. They can create viral diseases. Star eye is a disease called Southern Tick Associated Rash Illness. They're not really sure of the agent that causes this, but it's very similar to Lyme disease, creates a rash. And then you have alpha-gal syndrome, which that is an allergy. It's not a pathogen. It's an allergic reaction to alpha-gal, which is a carbohydrate that is found in the saliva of ticks. We don't have it in our bodies. So when we are bitten by ticks, each time we're bitten by lone star ticks or black-legged ticks, we create antibodies to the alpha-gal in the saliva. And we build antibodies to it. So eventually, if we keep getting bitten by ticks, the antibody level will rise, and we may have symptoms when we eat red meat. Alpha-gal is found naturally in other mammals. So if we eat beef or lamb or pork or venison, we will ingest alpha-gal. When it's absorbed into our bloodstream, our antibodies see it as foreign, and we have an allergic reaction, which can be a rash, stomach upset, hives, and even symptoms similar to anaphylaxis. The one thing to remember with alpha-gal syndrome is that it's delayed because of that ingestion and digestion. It takes anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. So you could have a hamburger at 6 o'clock and have reaction at midnight. So you want to keep that in mind. American dog ticks, they transmit Rocky Mountain spotted fever and tularemia, again, both bacterial and can be treated with antibiotics. As I said, Lyme disease is the #1 disease in Suffolk County and the nation. In 2022, we had 2,668 cases of Lyme disease in Suffolk County. The next one is babesiosis, which is around 200 to 250, and then it goes down from there. So Lyme disease is the #1 tick-borne illness, but there are many other tick-borne illnesses that you can get, so it's important to prevent tick bites for many, many reasons. So when are ticks active, and therefore when is there the risk of acquiring tick-borne illnesses? So the American dog tick, again, I said it was just the adults that are active, or rather that are an issue when it comes to biting humans. And they come out in the spring and kind of run through summer and as you can see, March to August. So they kind of peak around May or June, and then they will disappear. Lone Star ticks, you'll have the adults come out, and then the nymphs will come out, and then the larvae will be active in the mid to late summer into the fall. Black-legged ticks, as you can see, they are active year-round. So in the winter, we have the adults that are active, and nymphs come out in early spring into the summer, and then the larvae are also active in the mid summer to early fall. So the term chiggers refers to mites that are found down south. We do not have chiggers here in Suffolk County. People call things that bite them chiggers, and what they are larval Lone Star ticks. Down south, where chiggers are active, they're active all summer long. They come out in the spring and they bite typically after actually a rain event. Here we see people being bitten by what people are calling chiggers during the time that larval Lone Star ticks are active, and which is midsummer to early fall. So it's a misnomer. They're really larval Lone Star ticks, and therefore people shouldn't be calling them chiggers, but they're actually tick bites. And the other thing to remember, as I said, the adult black-legged ticks are active in the winter, and so they will be active anytime the day is above 40 degrees or night. When it's a warm winter day, you will have the risk of acquiring a tick bite. So you need to keep that in mind. So here are two pictures of the result of larval Lone Star tick bites. On the left, you can see the ankle, and all that brown are actually attached larval Lone Star ticks. They actually crawled through this woman's sock and attached. The picture on the right is the result of the exposure to the saliva. The ticks are gone, and so they don't crawl under the skin. They attach. They will secrete saliva into the bite, and then we will react accordingly. Lone Star ticks create a very red, itchy, raised bite, and so these bites, you kind of know when it was a Lone Star tick because it itches like crazy, and it can itch for weeks, sometimes months. So typically what will happen is people will itch these bites raw, and you run the risk of getting a secondary bacterial infection. So this is what people are calling chiggers. Again, chiggers don't exist in Suffolk County. It's larval Lone Star ticks that are biting people like this. So mosquitoes, the mosquito life cycle, the adults obviously fly, and we have males and females. They mate, and the female lays eggs. It's only the female that takes a blood meal, and she takes that because of the need to use that blood meal to create a clutch of eggs. So the mosquitoes will either lay eggs on the surface, as shown here in this raft, but also some of the other species will actually lay them with an adhesive, with a little glue that attaches to containers, like right at the water's edge, like a bucket or a wheelbarrow or a bird bath. So those are the two types of eggs that the mosquitoes will lay in this area. So the eggs hatch, Out come an aquatic larva. They're obviously living in water. They breathe air, and they will feed. They're like filter feeders. So they like bacteria in the water, things that they can graze on. That's what they eat. They molt a few times. There's 4 larval instars. And then the last instar actually pupates into a pupa, and that is a resting stage. And within that pupa is forming the adult mosquito, very much like the cocoon of a monarch butterfly. Within that chrysalis, you have the formation of the butterfly. Within the pupa, you have the formation of the mosquito. That back of the pupa splits open, and you can see that the female is actually, or the mosquito adult is actually starting to come up through that crack in the pupa. It will unfurl its wings and harden on the surface of the water, and then fly away. And feed or mate, or whether it's a male or a female. And that's the life cycle of the mosquito. So the mosquito is of medical importance in Suffolk County. There are several. And there are primarily 2 viruses that are of medical importance in Suffolk County. Eastern equine encephalitis virus is a very serious virus. It has about a 35% mortality rate. And you can see that there's several mosquitoes that are capable of transmitting it. West Nile virus is the second virus. And again, there are other mosquitoes, but they're the primary, the 2 mosquitoes that transmit it. So there are several mosquitoes that can transmit viruses in Suffolk County. You really can't tell the difference, so you want to prevent mosquito bites regardless, because you don't know what these species are. Or most people don't know what these species are, so you just want to prevent any mosquito biting you. The good news about equine encephalitis virus is that we have had no human cases in Suffolk County. We find the virus every few years. We act upon it very quickly. We try to reduce the mosquito population so we don't have human cases, and we've never had a human case identified. West Nile virus is the most common virus when it comes to mosquitoes in Suffolk County. And in the years, it came into the US in 1999. Since then, every year we see it in the mosquitoes. We don't necessarily see it in humans. Actually, 80% of all the cases are asymptomatic. So you can actually get West Nile virus and not have any symptoms, or you can have fever. Or in the worst cases, it actually becomes encephalitis. But we have had either 0 cases of humans or up to 25, which was in 2010. So where are mosquitoes found? Those that are important for Eastern equine encephalitis virus, they're more rural. They're found in red maple swamps or in swampy areas. So, typically there's not a lot of population in those areas as well, but that's where you find that activity. For West Nile virus, it's mostly residential, because the mosquitoes that drive that life cycle for that virus are container breeders. So these containers typically are man-made. They can be buckets, they can be catch basins, where whatever's holding water, that drives a lot of West Nile virus. But they also, we find activity in rural areas as well, but it's not as frequent. So again, in Suffolk County, anyone is susceptible of being bitten by mosquitoes that may have a virus. Now, infections in ticks and mosquitoes are not complete, meaning it's not 100%. It will run the gamut. Sometimes it's a little higher than the average, or lower than the average, but it's typically not 100%. And more often than not, especially for viruses and mosquitoes, it's very, very low, single digits, but it can increase with the right circumstances. And with ticks, that the black-legged nymph, the infection rate for the bacterium that causes Lyme disease typically is around 25%. So 1 in 4 nymphs may have the spirochete that causes Lyme disease. So it just gives you an idea that just because you're bitten by either a tick or mosquito, you're not going to be infected. But again, you can't tell by looking at a tick or mosquito if they have a pathogen that can make you sick. So you just want to prevent tick bites. And we'll talk more about that and mosquito bites. And we'll talk more about that later. All right, so where are ticks found? So the black-legged tick, they're more susceptible to desiccation. So they like moister environments. And that's really woodlands where there's plenty of leaf litter and tree cover, so it doesn't dry out as readily. So black-legged ticks are typically found in woodlands. American dog ticks are more resilient when it comes to desiccation, as are Lone Star ticks. But American dog ticks can be found in fields, so they can withstand drier environments, and they're often found in fields. Lone Star ticks, again, they're not bothered really by a too dry environment, so they're found basically anywhere that deer are found, because they're very dependent on deer. So they can be in woods, they can be in fields, they can be in yards, they can be anywhere. And obviously the important thing for us to realize is that these ticks can be found in peridomestic areas or around homes. They can be found in gardens, and they can be found in lawns. And so, as your organization carries through on your activities, you need to realize that ticks can be something that you can encounter in gardens or any of these plantings that you're involved in. So ticks quest and mosquitoes fly. So questing is basically a tick will sit on vegetation. It could be a leaf, leaf litter, or it could be an actual stem of a small bush, like a blueberry or something like that. They just sit there and they wait for an animal or a person to walk past. And if it brushes up against that, you see the front legs are out. They have little claws on the end. They will grasp a hold of whatever is going by. It will search on that animal, and then will find a spot to attach. It'll set up a bite site. It'll feed either 2 to 7 days and then drop off. Some ticks will actually go towards carbon dioxide. They can sense carbon dioxide, which is obviously what animals exhale, and they can move. Lone Star ticks and dog ticks are more common to move towards that CO2. Mosquitoes are very good at moving towards CO2. So if you're sitting on your back deck, obviously exhaling, creating a plume of CO2, any mosquitoes around there can pick up that CO2 plume and fly towards the source. And that's how they find you, along with other things that we give off from our skin. So they're able to sense individuals and animals and feed accordingly. So biting activity, I have this is my Boy Scout troop. Both mosquitoes and ticks will bite you, whether it's day or night. So there are daytime and nighttime biting mosquitoes, and ticks will be actively searching for a host 24/7. So you have to take precautions against tick bites 24/7. All right, so how do we prevent bites? So there are two basically barriers we can use. One is clothing, and ticks are found in the leaf litter. They don't really come up above the knee. When they quest, they don't quest in trees. They don't drop from trees. They don't fly. They don't jump. So they're going to be in the leaf litter or on the brush that's knee high or lower. So we want to tuck our pants and our socks so the ticks can't get underneath our pants. So it creates that barrier. And then we want to tuck our shirt into our pants. So anything that gets onto our pants knee high and climbs up, they're not going to scoot underneath our shirt. Mosquitoes have a hard time biting through material. They can if it's thin enough. But again, having long sleeves, long pants will make it harder for mosquitoes to bite. Hats are also obviously more important when it comes to mosquitoes, so they don't bite you on your scalp or forehead. But it's important for those that have long hair, and just tuck the hair up underneath the hat. So if a tick gets on your back, it doesn't get into your hair immediately. It's got to climb up your clothing, and more likely for hopefully to be seen by somebody around you, or if you do a tick check using a mirror or help by somebody else. You can also avoid tick and mosquito habitat. It's hard if you're active outside, but planting. But let's say you're in an area where you're starting to pick up ticks. You can leave that area. Or if you're being bitten by mosquitoes, you can go indoors. So that's what I mean by avoid. If there's a lot of activity, either avoid that area if you can, or at that time, and then try it another time when the ticks and mosquitoes may not be as active. You want to check frequently for ticks when you are outside, and you want to remove them promptly, whether they're on your skin or on your clothing. You want to get them off. You don't want them to attach, you want to get them off as quickly as possible. And we'll talk more about tick removal. You can consider using repellents. That's the second barrier. With clothing, you can treat clothing, you can treat skin. And the important thing about repellents is you want to follow the label. There's a number of repellents, and I will talk to you about those in a little bit. You can use a clothes dryer to kill ticks. I mentioned that they're susceptible to desiccation. So if you garden in a jumpsuit, let's say, when you're done, just take that, put it in the dryer, take it for a spin for 10 minutes on medium or high heat, and any ticks that are on that will be killed. And then you don't have to wash it. You can actually just hang it up until next time. So if you take that clothing and put it in a washer, those ticks will survive that laundering. Hot water doesn't kill them. Bleach doesn't kill them, in a washer, and also hot water doesn't kill them. So they will survive the wash cycle, but they will not survive drying. So dry your clothing first. You want to remove ticks by flagging. I'll explain that. It's easier for me to show you some pictures, but you can, if you're working in an area where there are ticks, you can flag the area and actually remove them physically. Mosquitoes are not strong flyers. So if you put a fan on a deck or in a garden, if you're working and you're being bitten, if you have a fan blowing over you, they're less likely to be able to fly into that wind towards you. So just have the fan upwind of you, blowing past you, and they won't be able to fly and land on you. And then you don't want to propagate or breed mosquitoes around the areas that you live or work. So any kind of standing water, remember there's that aquatic stage. If you dump those containers that are holding water, they won't be able to breed there. So you just want to keep dumping water around home, and that involves any kind of container that could possibly be around a home, a pot for a plant, a bucket, a wheelbarrow, tires. Some people use them for shoring up walls or something like that. So all those have to be emptied. And then also you want to make sure your gutters are not holding water, that there's no leaves causing them not to drain, because mosquitoes will breed in gutters as well. So again, dress properly. You can see on the left, my pant legs are tucked into my socks. I actually, when I'm out, I use 2 pairs of socks, because those larval Lone Star ticks, they can actually get through a loose weave of a sock like that. So I use 2 socks. The gardener on the right, you can see she's wearing a hat. Again, not because ticks drop out of trees, it's just basically to protect the head from biting mosquitoes, as well as tucking that any kind of hair up underneath that hat to keep it off your back. Long sleeves, again, will prevent mosquitoes from biting the arms. If you pick up a tick on your hand, it will crawl underneath your sleeve. That won't stop it. So, you know, it's long sleeves are really for mosquitoes. You can use garden gloves as another layer on your hands, and then long pants. Again, it's a layer that ticks and mosquitoes aren't going to be able to get to the skin of the legs. Again, tuck the pants in either socks or boots so ticks can't get underneath. And you want to use closed-toed shoes. You don't want any ticks getting into Crocs or any kind of sandals. So you want to use closed-toed shoes. There are special things you can buy for mosquitoes. You know, they're just out there if you're really in an area where, primarily on the South Shore, that's where salt marsh mosquitoes come out in large numbers, you know, to the point where you're inhaling them as you're working. If that's the case, you can actually buy head nets or bug jackets and use those on times that when the mosquito numbers are very high. You can make places that you work drier, and one way is to remove leaf litter. Leaf litter holds moisture. It also creates an environment that's good for rodents. So if you remove leaf litter, also vegetation will hold moisture around the ground as well, so it makes it for a damper environment. If there isn't vegetation that you want that's there, it's better to remove it. That'll make it a drier environment. And then mulch is actually very good because it's dry on the top, wet on the bottom, perfect for obviously plants. It creates a moist soil, but also it's a dry top surface where ticks are less likely to crawl over. So this is a mulch border on the side of a property, trying to prevent ticks from crawling from that wooded area across into the yard. Property edges, when it comes to a property, where I have found ticks mostly is along the edges. You can find them in the grass. You can also find them in plantings. They're also found a lot in ground cover, like Pachysandra, ivy, because that's raised and mice like to run in through it, and because they're protected from predation. So I found quite a few ticks in ground covers like ivy and Pachysandra. But the property edges are really the riskier locations. They're usually planted like this. This one is up against woods, so you're going to have more deer going through there, more animals. So that's really where those ticks are going to move in from, that edge. So you want to think along those lines. Again, clothes dryer is your best friend. You put the clothing in there that you wear outdoors first, 10 minutes, and it basically disinfects them from ticks. Now, I mentioned tick removal by flagging. You can see on the left, I'm using a flag. And what that is, it's a piece of cloth attached to a pole, and ticks are questing in those leaves and vegetation. As I go over it with a piece of cloth, they will attach to it. And you can see that it's a corduroy. We use corduroy flags because of the cat briar and other things. It'll tear other materials. But you can see a female Lone Star tick next to the point of those tweezers. You just pull it off with a pair of tweezers and put it in a little container of hand sanitizer. You can see on the right that is actually, I flagged a campsite for my scout troop one spring, and they're the ticks that I collected from that campsite. So I didn't get all the ticks, and it's not 100%, but every tick in that vial sitting in that hand sanitizer is not going to be biting anybody. So that's the whole idea. So to create a flag, you can just get a piece of sheet, you can get an old pillowcase, get an old towel, tape it to a old broom handle and drag it over the vegetation. And any ticks that are there, you know, if it comes in contact, will probably attach. And then you'll know exactly where those ticks are on your property. I mean, if you're working in a certain garden all the time, you're finding ticks, then you can actually flag it and you'll know exactly where these ticks are coming from. So it's a way of getting them away from the places that you're working and reducing the risk of exposure, as well as learning where these ticks might be and the riskier parts of the locations that you're working. I said use a fan. Again, mosquitoes aren't strong flyers. You know, work in that airspace and you will, you know, be protected. Remove standing water in gutters, buckets, tires, dog dishes, or any kind of container. You see the gentleman cleaning out the gutter. I just wanted to mention bird baths. I mean, bird baths are a popular component of many gardens. Bird baths will breed mosquitoes, but the whole life cycle for a mosquito takes about a week. So if bird baths are emptied and cleaned and refilled like once or twice a week, you will never have breeding. But you can always look and see, it's temperature dependent, the cycle of the mosquito. So if you see breeding, then you're not cleaning it enough. But you can, it is possible to have bird baths, and they just need to be emptied and cleaned once or twice a week. All right, so, and you know, again, we talked about tick checks. You want to do frequent tick checks. You want to do them while you're working in the garden. You know, look at your hands, look at your gloves, look at your arms. You know, you want to really do a tick check every 10 to 20 minutes. You also then want to do a tick check when you are at home. When you go inside, you take your clothes off. You want to do a tick check. Often showering. It helps because now you have the whole view of your body. You can check everywhere. And then also the next morning, what I have found that if you miss a tick, and again, these can be very small, if a tick attaches to you, it will create a little redness around where it attaches. And so that little tick now is that much bigger and more easily seen. So check the next morning. I like to say check every time you brush your teeth, right? Morning and night. And therefore, if you happen to miss one, you'll get it the next tick check. There is a window that you have to remove a tick. That window is approximately 24 to 36 hours for most pathogens. Powassan virus, unfortunately, can be transmitted in about 15 minutes. Again, a good reason to do frequent tick checks, but most pathogens take 24 to 48 hours. They're actually in the gut of the tick. So you have that window. If you miss it that night and find it the following morning, that's been 12 hours. So you still are within that safety window of not being exposed if that tick is infected. So do frequent tick checks morning and night and after coming indoors, and you will do a good job at protecting yourself. So where do you check? Basically everywhere. Ticks can attach everywhere. They can be found in the belly button, you know, in the groin area, behind the knees, in the toes, between the toes. Kids that run around barefoot often will have ticks in their between their toes. On your back. I mean, there are ticks that have been removed from ears. There's also some literature that ticks will attach to the eyeball, very infrequently, but again, they will attach anywhere that they can possibly get to. So you want to check everywhere. And again, the belly button is kind of one of those hidden areas. They will crawl into a belly button and attach. So you want to make sure that you're checking there. So if you're bitten, obviously with a mosquito, you swat at it, right? And you try to get it off. If you're bitten by a tick, There's a proper way to remove that tick, and there are improper ways to remove that tick. So what is the proper way? This is the part of the tick that actually is attached in the skin. It's called the hypostome. You can see the barbs. And what it does is that penetrates the skin, and it holds itself in that bite site with those barbs. And then that's the only thing that's in the skin. So when you remove that tick, that is the only thing it's going to remain attached, possibly, if you do it right. So you'll take the rest of the tick with it. That little hypostome is not infectious. So if you leave it behind when you remove the tick, it's not infectious. It's better just to leave it. It'll slough off in a week or two. Most people do a bad job at digging that thing out and create a secondary bacterial infection. It's better just to leave it. Those two things on either side of the red oval, they're called palps. And so they can't go into the skin. So it's just a point to reiterate that ticks don't crawl into the skin. They don't go under the skin. They don't disappear. The only thing that enters is that little hypostome. You can have swelling around the tick, which looks like it's actually in the skin, but all that is swelling. So again, this is a tick that was on one of my scouts just a few weeks ago, and it's a female black-legged tick. And so how do you properly remove that? So you get a fine pair of tweezers, as fine a tip as possible. Go down to the skin, as close to the skin as possible, and pull it straight up. You don't treat the tick with Vaseline, gasoline, matches, anything like that. You don't want to irritate the tick, because in the gut are these pathogens, and you don't want it to regurgitate anything into the bite site. So you want to get that tick off as soon as possible. You don't have time for it to back out on its own. You want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So you grasp it with tweezers, pull it straight out. Don't twist it, just pull it straight out. And here you can see on the right that the palps and hypostome are intact. But that's exactly how you want to remove a tick. Once you remove it, what do you do with it? So you want to remove it ASAP because of that window, right? You don't want to squeeze the tick, because you don't want to squeeze the gut the gut contents into the bite site, because again, in the gut are all the germs that cause these diseases. And then once you have the tick, you want to put it in hand sanitizer or rubbing alcohol. You don't want to destroy it. You don't want to break it open, because again, in that tick are all the germs that cause these diseases. So it might feel good that you're killing this thing that just attacked you and just bit you, but you don't want to. For one reason is you don't want to open it up. And the other reason is it's a medical record. This tick just bit you. And if you become ill, now you have a tick that may have been the reason that you're sick. So put it in alcohol, label that vial or baggie or whatever it's in with the date and the place of the bite on you. So then you want to observe that bite for up to 30 days for a rash or any kind of ill feelings. And then obviously if you're feeling poorly or you have a rash, you've got that tick, you can show your medical provider, and also it's that record. So not all ticks transmit the same diseases. So it's good to know what you were bitten by. Most tick-borne illnesses will be within the first week. 3 to 7 days are typical, but up to 30 days. And what are those symptoms? Symptoms are fever, rash, malaise. You just start to feel lousy. And so these are the symptoms of a lot of diseases. But if you, again, have that record of a tick, it's one piece of the puzzle that may be helpful when it comes to being diagnosed with tick-borne illnesses. All right, so I mentioned using tick repellents and mosquito repellents. And now the best repellents to use are the ones recommended by CDC. The reason for that is these repellents are actually EPA approved. The reason they're approved by EPA is they have the science to back their efficacy. And so the label will tell you how often you have to reapply. And it's usually, every 4 to 6 hours, give or take, depending on the product. But again, I already said you need to follow the label. The label is the law. It will tell you how often to reapply it. The first one is permethrin. This can only be used on clothing. It's extremely effective. And so what you do is you take the can or spray pump of permethrin, you spray it on your clothing when you're not wearing it. So you spray it on one side, you flip it over, you spray it on the other side, and then you hang it to dry. It should be dry within 2, 4, 6 hours, depending on the humidity level. But if you have a work suit that you use for gardening, a jumpsuit, something like that, you can spray that. The permethrin actually binds to the clothing. So when you touch it, it doesn't come off. So there's no exposure once it's dry. And you can wash it 6 times or wear it 6 weeks before you have to reapply it. It's very, very effective, like 95% effective when it comes to preventing tick and mosquito bites. So it's really, really a great repellent to use. DEET, picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, PMD is the synthesized variety of OLE, IR 3535 and 2-underquinone are all ones that you can use on skin and clothing. There are some caveats using on clothing, like DEET will actually dissolve some polyester and nylon fibers in some things. So, follow the directions, but these are primarily used for skin. If you use them on clothing, they will wash off, they will rub off. If you spray a piece of clothing with it and touch it, you can transfer it to your hands. So you have to just keep that in mind. Follow the directions. Again, these are effective at the application rate and times that are on the label. EPA actually has a tool on their website when it comes to the ability to pick a repellent that is right for you. All right, so there was a permethrin study that looked at just applying permethrin to boots or shoes and socks. You can see the sock on the right. There are 3 Lone Star ticks there, 2 nymphs and adult. They're permethrin treated socks. And that is often what happens when we treat our socks with permethrin. We're walking obviously through the environment. We see ticks will get on there and they'll get caught in the fibers with their legs and they'll end up dying. So what this study found was that somebody that treated their socks and shoes with permethrin were almost 74 times less likely to have a tick bite. Very, very effective. And that's the reason. The reason is because they're down below, right? They're coming up from the leaf litter and that area. So very, very effective way of preventing tick bites and mosquito bites by applying them to the skin and clothing. All right, so some information you can go to our website, the Arthropod-Borne Disease Lab. We have a lot of information on it. We actually have a ticks and mosquito surveillance program. All those data are on our website. If you have any questions on ticks or mosquitoes, there are 2 email addresses you can send us questions to, or pictures of ticks. We can do IDs as long as the pictures are good. Most of the stuff we have on our website is our stuff, as well as from New York State DOH and CDC, but you can find things on their website as well. And then we have a great collaboration with the Stony Brook Southampton Hospital Tick-Borne Disease Resource Center. They're a great resource as well. They have an information helpline that's womaned by Rebecca. She's a nurse. And she will answer your medical questions as well as other questions. But she won't diagnose you over the phone. But if you have something along the lines of a medical question, she is the one to talk to. And the number is 631-726-8425. So give Rebecca a call. Much of what I talked about and more, what you can do around your home. If you look, if you just search for the Tick Management Handbook by Kirby Stafford, that PDF will come up. It's a great resource, and you'll find more information as well as what I discussed. So we're actually looking for a tick, and I wanted to ask for your help. We are trying to find Gulf Coast ticks. This tick transmits an organism very close to Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And so we're trying to find specimens. They occur. We have found them in Suffolk County. We have not found an established population. But you can see Gulf Coast ticks up on the top are very, very close, look very closely to the American dog tick. So they're hard to tell apart. The main difference is the length of the mouth parts. You can see Gulf Coast ticks have long mouth parts, whereas the American dog tick have shorter mouth parts. But if you find one that you think might be a Gulf Coast tick, take a picture and send that picture to me at tick.prevention@suffolkcountiny.ny.gov. And I will take a look, and I'll email you back and let you know what that tick is. And I really look forward to receiving ticks, and I look forward to possibly receiving pictures of Gulf Coast ticks. I think they're probably here, established in low numbers, and I think that the public are going to find them before we do. So we really appreciate your help with that. The 14th of April is National Gardening Day. I don't know if you knew that, but we'd have a big social media presence, and we try to recognize those types of days with social media blasts. On the left is the QR code for our website, and on the right is the post survey, the same 5 questions. You can take it again and get your score. Okay, I'll put the link to that. If you can't scan it, the QR code, I'll put the link in the chat as well. All right. So thank you, everyone. I guess any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. That was amazing.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm reading the chat, and I don't see too many questions yet. So first of all, thank you. I'm Len Green. I'm in the South Fork chapter out here in East Hampton. And I have, I think, 2 questions I'd like to start with. One, I wear permethrin sprayed clothes, and I find it very effective. As you say, I often find dead ticks in my socks. My first question is about this. I always take those clothes off and hang them outside because I worry about off-gassing, if you know what I mean, in the house. Do you know if permethrin will off-gas? Does that represent any kind of threat if I leave the clothes hanging inside my house?
I have never heard that that is a risk. It will break down over time, but again, it takes a long time. So once you apply it, it's 6 weeks. It's effective for 6 weeks. So it breaks down very, very slowly. If you're worried about that, if that's a concern, what I would suggest is that you take it, put it in the dryer, treat it, and then hang it outside or in your garage or wherever you're doing it. That way, you know, you're not bringing ticks into the area, and let's say, you know, you garden today, then you put it on tomorrow, it's not treated. And so a tick could have crawled underneath where you didn't treat, and it's waiting for you. You know, it'll survive on clothing for a day or 2. It's a dry environment, so it's not going to live there forever, but it could be waiting for you the next day. So I would suggest getting it, throwing it into the dryer. There's no written risk of transmitting permethrin to the dryer, and so you know, and causing an issue there. Treat it, and then move it back outside if you're worried about any kind of issue with that. But then it's treated. Any ticks that are there are going to be killed, and that way you're not at risk the next day.
Okay, great. I see a question here about how big is the nymph after feeding? I'm not sure who asked this question, but and I'm not sure which nymph they're referring to.
So the two nymphs that you might find or attached, or usually they're feed on dogs, and they'll drop off in dog beds. When the dog is sleeping, they typically will drop off. So they're about the size of a large sesame seed. They're small to begin with, and then they fill up with blood, so they're going to be round, almost like the belly. They're going to look like the belly of a mosquito. And so they're about the size of a large round sesame seed, but dark. And it'll be nymphal Lone Star ticks and black-legged ticks. So, they are the ones. And then the adults, they actually get much larger when they feed. The females, they're about the size of a plump raisin or grape, depending on the level of blood meal. And larvae look like little full round poppy seeds. They're little specks. And there's usually many of them because they come from an egg mass, and when they bite a dog or a person, when they drop off, it looks like pepper.
Okay, the next question I see is from Laura K. I read that dengue has reached the States. Can you touch on that briefly?
Sure. So dengue, we actually had in 2013, we had one case which we thought was locally acquired dengue. We were unable to isolate it in the mosquitoes, and it was out west. The mosquito that drives that is the Asian tiger mosquito. Again, a very prolific breeder in containers, and they can be found throughout Suffolk County. But they don't fly very far. So if you dump water around your house, you're going to really reduce the amount of those mosquitoes. Dengue is usually comes in from other locations, Puerto Rico, South America, and so it's brought in that way. It's transmitted from human to human through a mosquito. So if I come in from Puerto Rico, I'm infected with dengue. I not feeling well. I sit in my lawn chair out back. Asian tiger mosquitoes come in, they feed on me, they pick up the virus, and then they're going to go lay their eggs, and now they're going to go out for their next blood meal, and they're going to transmit that virus. It's very unlikely here. It is possible. As I said, we've only had really one what appeared to be locally acquired. But down south, like in Texas and Florida, it's more of an issue. Down there, they have another mosquito called the yellow fever mosquito, which is even better at transmitting it. And so it's more likely to happen down there. But dengue is not really an issue up here, but it can be. We do find people in Suffolk County with it, but it's usually travel acquired cases from other locations.
Okay, thank you. The next question up is from Tara Ling. What about dirty garden clothes? Should you put them in the washer and then the dryer? Will this destroy ticks too?
No. So again, ticks will not be killed by going through the washer. So again, if you're worried about any kind of contact of the clothing with the dryer, put them in a bag, put them in a laundry bag or something like that. All you have to do is heat it. So put it in a laundry bag, throw it in the dryer, heat it up, and then you can wash it. Because if you just take a outfit that you gardened in and it has mud on it, and you throw it in and you wash it through the washer, any ticks that are on there will be alive. They will not be dead. So when you reach into that washer, there is the potential for that exposure to a live tick. So it's better to dry it first. And if you're worried about dirt or even permethrin in a dryer, put it in a pillowcase or some sort of large cloth bag and put it in the dryer obviously tie the bag, put it in the dryer, and heat it up for 10 minutes, and that will kill anything on that clothing.
Thank you. Next question up is, if you don't have access to a dryer in your home, what is the next best option? Is there an option? Hair dryer.
Yeah, there's not really that safe of an option. I mean, I wouldn't suggest putting your clothing in an oven, which is, again, you need something hot, right? So, a dryer really is the best thing. If you don't have it, ticks will not live forever on that clothing. So what you could do is maybe have two outfits that you work outside in, and either hang it away from where people are, that if there are any ticks, they're going to drop off on like the basement floor, or the garage floor where it's dry, and they're going to die eventually, or bag it and let it sit for a few days, and then they're going to be so desiccated that they're not going to be able to survive. So the best thing is the dryer. If you don't have a dryer, I would suggest bagging it. Definitely, if it's treated with permethrin, you're going to have a less likelihood of having ticks on it to begin with. It's going to repel them off, or kill them if they remain. So again, it's a combination of dryer, permethrin, and kind of keeping it away in a drier environment, if you can't treat it with heat.
Yes. The next question up, and I'm moving along quickly here because I want to have time for all these questions,
Sure.
is, are there natural predators for ticks that we should encourage?
Yeah, so there are natural predators. Other invertebrates like ants will eat ticks. Obviously, birds can eat ticks. Mammals, they'll pick up, like opossums will pick up ticks and they'll groom themselves. I guess really what it comes down to is we have all that. We have all those invertebrates, we have all those mammals, we have all those birds, and we still have ticks. So there is no natural ability to lower tick populations when it comes to using animals as a way of controlling them. They may help, but also every animal that eats a tick is also a blood meal for a tick. So it's kind of a balance of how many do they eat and how many do they feed.
Okay, thank you. The next question up is, we leave the leaves for our pollinators. There's a whole literature about the importance of leaves as, for example, I know the mourning cloak will be emerging soon. It's a butterfly, and it lives as in its adult stage all winter in the leaves. So we leave the leaves for our pollinators. What's your suggestion for a balanced yard? Would flagging be the best course of action in this case?
Sure. So a couple things. I mean, flagging, I think, is a great way to remove any kind of ticks that you might have. If you are working in your yard and you're coming across ticks, you can get those ticks out by flagging. Flagging will show you, again, where the risky areas are. If you don't, especially if you don't want to apply any kind of pesticides to your lawn, flagging is a physical way of removing them as opposed to a chemical way. Ticks need to rehydrate in the soil. So when pesticides are applied to a lawn, they only need to be applied to the ground. So you don't need to apply any pesticide to the flowers or any of the plants above when it comes to ticks. So therefore, you shouldn't be applying pesticide to flowers where bees, butterflies, or any pollinators are going to, because that will kill them or repel them. So if you spray underneath the vegetation on the ground level, the ticks will eventually have to either come through that from the leaf litter or the duff and then quest. And so they'll die that way. Or if they're on the vegetation, and they need to go through it to rehydrate. They can't rehydrate just hanging out. So any kind of pesticide should be applied low to the ground. It's not effective when it comes to mosquitoes. Mosquitoes will rest on vegetation. So that's a balance. So, if you're spraying a yard for mosquitoes, they will rest on vegetation. So what you could do is maybe spray the vegetation plants like boxwoods and things that don't flower, where you don't have to worry about it, but you wouldn't be spraying your milkweed. There's nothing that's going to be 100%, but you can do certain things that are going to be, I guess, the best approach when it comes to trying to find the balance. And that's what that question was. It was all about balance. So you've got to look at the pros and cons of each approach and make that decision.
Okay, I might, if I may, just piggyback on what you've just said. I don't know if you're familiar with the Carey Institute and the research that they've done. And I've read from them that even though spraying may reduce the number of ticks on your property, it doesn't reduce the incidence of tick-borne illness. Have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's very, very hard. Most of the studies looking at reduction of ticks will look at the tick population before and after, and they look at the infection rate before and after. It's extremely difficult to look at the number of cases, right? The proof is in the pudding, right? And that is how many people get sick after you do something. And typically the experimental areas are very small. Nobody's going to do something throughout Suffolk County and look at the number of the decrease or increase of tick-borne illnesses, right? And how effective it is. So most people will look at a couple of acres. So they're looking at the impact on the tick population. So most of those things do not translate into protective ability when it comes to reduction of risk to humans. It's kind of implied. I mean, if you reduce the tick population and reduce the infection rate, the implication is that, yes, you're reducing the risk, because there's an index, it's called entomological risk index. And that's basically the population and the infection rate. The product of that. So if you can reduce one of those or both of those, you're going to reduce the risk. If that translates into reduced risk to humans, again, it's implied. So it's very, very difficult to do those types of studies. We've been trying to do that for decades, and it's just very, very, very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So the next question up was put your clothes in a laundry bag, tie it, and put it out in the sun for 4 to 6 hours. Might that be effective if you don't have a dryer?
So again, the temperature has to reach the temperature of the medium temperature of a dryer. So, you're talking probably 100+ degrees. So it would be unlikely, but eventually it would kill them because they would dry out. It may not be from the heat per se, but eventually they will dry out. So you could try it. You could put it in a car. A car would be much hotter than than outside, perhaps, maybe a hot deck. That you're using the sun, might be an alternative. But again, you want to get up around over 100, and you could try it.
Okay, great. And this looks like it might be the last question, at least on the chat. There's an image circulating online saying a tick is alive and laying eggs after months after being captured in a tube. Is there any truth to that? I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I didn't see that. But for example, the adult ticks that feed, the females that feed in the winter will actually lay in the leaf litter for months and kind of digest the meal, create an egg mass. That takes time. As long as they have access to moisture, they'll survive. They have lipid stores. They have the ability to survive. Really, the only thing that will kill them will be dryness. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. But I mean, if I collected a tick, an engorged tick, or if I collected a tick just from the environment, if I keep it in a moist environment, it will survive We keep them in vials. Yeah, they'll live for weeks or months as long as I keep them hydrated and not too wet, or they'll get moldy. But yeah, we can keep them in a lab like that.
Okay, I think there's a related question. Perhaps you've answered it, but can ticks live in a vacuum bag? I guess one of those vacuum packed bags which you can remove the air.
Yeah, right. I mean, again, they need air to survive, so it would be a matter of time, but it takes a lot to kill a tick. They do very well at what they do, but again, people thought by putting Vaseline you would suffocate them and all that, but you put Vaseline on it, they'll live for some time. So you remove the air, eventually they will die, but it will take a long time.
Okay, this has been very interesting. We're over, it's 8:20 right now. Have I missed any questions? Is there anyone who wants to add something that I may have overlooked in reading through the chat?
There was a question about permethrin and cats.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, is permethrin safe for cats?
Yeah, so again, talk to your veterinarian, but permethrin actually is one of the safest products that are available for cats when it comes to treating cats for ectoparasites. Permethrin is also what we use for head lice. So it's not, that's the beauty of permethrin, is the toxicity for pets and humans is very low. It is very toxic to invertebrates like ticks, but also other insects, and that's why it has to be applied according to the label. You don't want to kill anything that you don't want to, and it's also very toxic to fish. So you wouldn't want to use it around an ornamental pond because it would kill koi or something like that. And it has again, any kind of pesticide you use around your home, you've got to follow the label. But most of the products in that class, you have to spray away from water. So you can't go up to the edge because of runoff. The beauty about permethrin is it not only does it bind to clothing, but these products that are sold for house use, it binds to vegetation and soil, so it doesn't leach into the groundwater. It doesn't run off once it's dry. So you want to apply it on a sunny day when it's going to dry properly, and then it won't run off or be exposed to pets or anything like that.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. I could certainly go on for a while, but you've been very generous with your time, so greatly appreciate it. This is, I think most of the comments or almost all the comments I see that are very appreciative and say this has been really an eye-opener, and we've all learned a lot. So thank you so much for your presentation and your talk. And if we want to follow through with some questions, can we email you, or
Yeah,
you're probably very busy, but
yeah, no. Any questions? I mean, that's why we're here. We enjoy educational outreach. We want to educate the public. We want to empower them to be able to live in this world where ticks are part of our world. It's not something to fear. It's something to be educated about and win. We want to win. We want to beat them, right? So we don't want them to alter our lifestyle. We don't want to live in fear. So any questions can be emailed to tick.prevention@suffolkcountyny.gov. That email that I had given earlier, and we'll answer the questions, and we'll just continue that outreach.
all right. Thank you so much.